أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد خاتم الأنبياء وإمام المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا نويت تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على تمسك بكتاب الله وبسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير وابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى وبعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني ويفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Respected elders, dear brothers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to the sisters and any mothers that are listening also. I've been asked to speak about a topic which I think is very necessary to speak about in this day and age, because we often focus on those matters which don't concern us, and we forget about the grassroots, the things that we need to know to follow the straight path. And living in this modern society, we need to know how to conduct ourselves in order to be the best Muslims that we can be. Because often Muslims are unfortunately living in an identity crisis. We don't know how to live, whether we should be copying the likes of Messi or Ronaldo or Conor McGregor or these individuals, or should we be copying our elders who have got the beards and have got the golfies on their heads, they got their jubbas, etc. So we don't know what to do. And it's important to speak about these things because we need to know first and foremost what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respects from us, what He expects from us also. And we refer first and foremost to the hadith which can be found in the Sahih of Imam Muslim, where the meaning of it is where the Archangel Jibreel alayhi salam, when he arrives to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he asks him 3 questions on the deen. And he asks him what is Islam, what is Iman, and he asks him what is Ihsan. And the last one he asks him about what is Ihsan. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that it is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as though you see Him. And if you do not see Him, then know that He is looking at you. And this is what is meant by being a muhsin, the individuals who exercise excellence. So we need to look at how an individual reaches that state. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Ma'idah, He mentions, Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. That Allah, what He's saying here is Wallahu. And this is not normally used as a conjunction to join 2 things together, or it can be used as an oath. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He loves those who are the muhsins. So those individuals who exercise excellence. So how does somebody become someone who is excellent? To become somebody who is excellent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeatedly reminds us in the Quran about the word taqwa. Taqwa means God consciousness. To be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times. And this is how it links into the point of ihsan. And often the Sufi path, the Sufis, this is what they adopt as the foundation of their teachings. And that is to be a muhsin, to exercise taqwa, to receive the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because ultimately that is the life goal. The life goal is not to amount wealth. The life goal is not to become famous, not to become someone who can drive a Ferrari, or become someone who's good at football or video games. The end goal is to become that individual whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. And taqwa, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about taqwa, He mentions فَإِنَّ خَيْرُ زَادِ التَّقْوَى in Surah Al-Baqarah. And He says the best of provisions for the hereafter. In the context He's referring to is Umrah and Hajj. But He mentions in this فَإِنَّ خَيْرُ زَادِ التَّقْوَى. We know this from the hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. خَيْرُ زَادِ التَّقْوَى. The best of provisions is to have taqwa. So meaning, don't amass your wealth. That this isn't going to be that which is beneficial for you in the hereafter. What's going to be beneficial for you is being God conscious. And we often use the example, and it's a very simple example, but I think it's beautiful in illustrating the point when we are speaking about this world and how we live in it. And the point that we use is often, imagine you're in the Meadows now, and you want to get to, I don't know, maybe Branca or Clifton. There's not a direct bus that goes from here, is there? Right? So you jump on a bus. You jump on a bus, you get into town. Now you get into town, and from that bus stop, you need to catch another bus to get you to your final destination. And now your final destination is here, Clifton, or let's say Clifton. So you have to catch a bus from that bus stop. Now, you get to that bus stop in town, you're waiting for the Clifton bus to arrive. And you know, for whatever reason, it's delayed. So now, instead of standing there, patiently waiting, thinking about what you're going to do when you arrive in Clifton, because maybe you're going to the University of Trent University to sit an exam. So now, instead of revising for your exam, you're sat at the bus stop, and you look at the bus stop, and you say, you know, this is a very nice bus stop. It's got a digital display, it's got seats. You know, I may move here. It will be illogical, right? No one in their right mind would think that to be logical. You wouldn't say, I'm stood at this bus stop now, I'm waiting for my bus. You know, I might just fit a TV in here now, a bed, a chair, you know, fit a kitchen, and I'm going to start living in here. Because you know you're only going to be there for a few moments. And then ultimately you need to get to the Trent University and you need to sit your exam. And that is what this life is. That we have come for the alam al-arwah, from the realm of the spirit. And now that is, quote unquote, the example in the analogy is Meadows, right? So Meadows is the realm of spirits, mashallah. So when you get to the bus stop in town, that is this world that you are living in now. Now, if you are in this world now, and you are focusing solely on gathering worldly provisions, and you are not worrying about the test that is coming in the hereafter. Now, Trent University in this example is the hereafter. So, you know, don't go there now and think, you know, I've attained Jannah. But, you know, the point is that you have a test there, and you're preparing for that test. But here, if you're living your life here, and you're not focusing on that test which is to come, which is the greatest test which an individual will face, how is it that you will be successful? And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He reminds us again and again about taqwa. And God consciousness. God consciousness is knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at you at every single moment of day and time. That there is not a split second that passes where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not looking at you. So know this, and this is the first advice that you are given living as a Muslim in this modern society. Because we often think, I'll give you another example, if we have a little kid, you know, a young lad, maybe 12, 13, he stood with his friends, and you know, he's gone from home and he's kept a fast. And he's got around the corner or something and he's felt a little hungry. He's seen his friends eating a box of chips, non-Muslims, and he says to them, give me some chips please, right? And he's just about to break his fast. And at that point, he sees his taya or his chacha walking around the corner. And he says, and the chip is about to go in his mouth, and he quickly drops it. And he says, I wasn't going to do nothing. Right? Because he, out of respect and fear from his taya or his chacha, he doesn't break his fast. That because he will question me, why are you eating? So then how is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at us 24/7, even when we are sleeping, no matter what we are doing? How is it then that we can use the bounties that He has given us, the blessings that He has given us, to disobey Him? Do we not fear Him? Do we not respect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we think, oh, it's fine, it's only Allah, He will forgive us? One thing is having a good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He forgives you for the things that you do unintentionally, or you do things which you fall into sin forgetfully. But then there's those things which you do knowingly. If you do these things, how then is it that you can expect the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And some of the commentators were on these grounds in Aqidah, they say that this falls into shirk. That you know, you're expecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you, that, it's fine. I will commit sin, I'm going against the revealed law, and then Allah will forgive me, it's fine. To have that, it is classed as minor shirk, but according to some individuals. So this is something which we need to bear in mind. And then, so if we bear in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us at all times, this will be something which prevents us from committing haram. And if we do exercise this, and we become those individuals who possess taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Yunus, He mentions that those individuals who excel in good deeds and are those individuals who are muhsin. He mentions about them, He says, Ulaika ashabul jannahum khalidun. Jannahum fiha khalidun. That for those individuals, they will be in heaven, abiding therein forever. That will be their abode. And then for those individuals who are not exercising this, you have the torment of the fire coming towards you. And just to think about the torment of the fire, I mean, it's not a normal bonfire that we see here. The flames of the hellfire are something which we cannot comprehend. It's something which is beyond our understanding. That's how fearsome it is. And often we forget about this because we're too busy with this dunya. And this dunya is nothing but a mirage, it's an illusion. It looks pretty, it looks beautiful. But the things that you are being called to, which you are attracted to, is not something which is in essence the beauty of the religion. It is only the beauty of the religion which is beautiful. Everything that takes you away from it is ugly. And this is something which we need to bear in mind. And we just need to always focus that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just God. Because that is often what we think. That we think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just God. That is it. There's nothing more to it. Right? That Allah is God, I've read the Shahada, that is it. I don't need to do anything more. But what we need to get into the habit of doing is reminding ourselves that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everlasting. He was always there. And He always will be there. He is near. And He listens to everything that we say. And He's always going to be there. Every time we call upon Him, He answers. When we make dua, He answers. Now some of you may think, no, because I went for a job interview, I made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give me this job. He didn't give me this job, so He doesn't answer. This isn't the understanding. How do we explain this? We explain this by saying, maybe that job wasn't good for you, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not grant you that job. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to you, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant you a job, and He doesn't grant it you there and then, it doesn't mean He's not answering you. It means He is delaying it for the perfect time for you. And then when the right time comes, that is when He will grant you whatever you need. And when we speak about taqwa and being a muhsin, it isn't about being an individual who does it outwardly and openly. This isn't what makes you pious. This isn't what makes you a muhsin. Because you could have the biggest beard, you could have the most beautiful clothes, you could wear the most beautiful imamas, you could wear, attar which is beautiful and imported in, £200-300, right? But if you don't have taqwa inside, when you are in privacy, when you are in 2 and 4 walls, nobody else is in there except you, and at that point you are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If at that point you are not somebody who possesses taqwa, you are not somebody who is pious, then what good is your thobe? What good is your beard? What good is your hat? This is why when we first started practicing the religion, when we first started, Imam Khalid said to us, when we started growing our beards and that, and he says, are you 5-time namazi yet? I said, no. He says, well, what good is your beard? And when we were wearing our clothes and trying to copy the habayim, wearing the ridas over our shoulders and that, and wearing our attar and going around that we're pious, do you pray 5 times salah? No. Focus on your inwards, then focus on your outwards. This is the ultimate conclusion about everything. Once you perfect your inner self, then start growing your beard. Because then why? Then and only then are you somebody who is worthy to portray yourself as somebody following the sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I'll give you an example. Can I have a show of hands? How many of you watched the Conor McGregor and Khabib fight last night? Yeah? Quite a lot of people watched it, right? And what happened at the end? All the way up until that point, the brother, mashallah, tabarakallah, no matter what happened, he kept his calm. And the message was going out that this is Islam. MashaAllah. No matter what this guy is doing to him, he's exercising patience. He's not retaliating. He's following the footpath of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Because the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam was abused. He was sworn at. He was attacked. He was choked. Yet he remained patient. And what does he do at the end? The time when it was time to humble yourself and take it. And don't get me, I'm not against the brother. I was rooting for him, right? But I'm just using that as an example. They say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept his efforts and his religion and the way he portrays Islam for us. But that is just an example. He should have exercised patience at that point. And that would have been more, more of an image for somebody who's portraying Islam. So this is why we say, perfect your inner, then portray yourself as somebody who follows the footsteps of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the life in itself is a grazing pasture. So it's somewhere like a grazing pasture. Some of you youngsters, they might not know what grazing pasture is. A grazing pasture is somewhere where you take your sheep or your horses or your cows and they go and they eat their grass and they get full and then they go back and then you take them somewhere else. So this life is like that. It's a grazing pasture for us to amount good deeds. And only the foolish of us are those who do not amount the good deeds. And they are the ones who don't take advantage of it. And ultimately, this world is only a glimpse and the good things that we see. Like when we see the beautiful scenery and we see the rivers flowing. It is only, sometimes they give the example of Kashmir being an image. It looks like something which has come from Jannah. This is only a glimpse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's actual Jannah. So imagine if we saw that. And if we waste this time, the individuals who when they pass away, what will they say? They say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbana akhrijna. Allow us to exit this. Allow us to exit this, release us from this, so we may go back and we may amount good deeds. So we may do more good deeds. That we wasted our time. And some of the commentators speak about this. They say that a reason for majority of the people to be within the hellfire is because of procrastination. Procrastination meaning being lazy. Saying, yes, it's time to do a good deed, but I'm not going to do it now, I will do it some other time. And procrastination is what is going to take you into the hellfire. A Muslim is not somebody who procrastinates. A Muslim is active. If they want to do something, they do it there and then. If they need to pray the salah, they don't say in the summer, that Dhuhr time has started, well I've got all the way till about 7 o'clock till Asr starts, I'm going to pray my Dhuhr at 6:45. This is not what a Muslim does. A Muslim says, when the time of Dhuhr comes in, I will quickly pray my salah because I do not know if I will be alive till the next salah. This is the mind frame of a Muslim. So we need to hurry and hasten towards doing good deeds. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about those individuals who pass away. And He says in Surah Anam that they say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they curse themselves. They send lanat upon themselves. If only we could return and do more good deeds. If only we could do this. Even the martyrs in the Sahih Muslim, it says that the martyrs, when they die, they will be in paradise as little green birds flying around paradise. And they will make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to them, I will not deny you. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say to them. This is their reward. And they will say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what? They will say, being a martyr, bear in mind, it is a very lofty and high rank. It is one of the highest of ranks. But what are these individuals saying? Ya Rabbi, allow us to go back in the dunya so we may do more good deeds. So we may die again in your path. So they want to come back just to be shaheed again, just to earn the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if these individuals who have gone from this world, they want to come back to this world to do good deeds, then what is it about us that we are in this world and we are not taking advantage of our time? We are wasting our time. And Ibrahim at-Taymi, he used to mention that when someone asked him, one of his students, how is it that you are able to follow the path? Give us some advice. No, how is it that you have reached this rank? He says, I close my eyes and I imagine myself in the hellfire. And I imagine myself near the Zaqqum tree. And this is the worst part of hell. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Waqi mentioned that people will be near the Zaqqum tree. These are those people. And they will be made to drink boiling water. And these will be amongst their punishments. And he says, I imagine myself for a moment in there. And then he says, I imagine myself in a moment in Jannah. And he says, when I open my eyes, I ask myself, oh soul, what is it that you want? And the soul says, I want protection from the hellfire. So he says, you are safe from now, go and do good deeds. When he opens his eyes from the Jannah, he asks himself, oh soul, what is it that you want? He says, I want to go back into the world to do good deeds in order that I may receive even more blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah. So he says, you are free for now. Go back into the world and do good deeds. And one of the other pious predecessors, he dug his own grave. And he lies into the grave. He places himself in the shelf, in the grave. And what do we mean by shelf? Because in the Arab world, you are placed in shelves. You are not put straight down in the grave. It's like a shelf, and then the bodies are placed in the shelf in the ground. Right? So he places himself in there, and he says to himself, he imagines himself in the hellfire, and he says to himself that it would be better for you if you died right now. Because if you go back into the dunya, that you may do things which take you away from Islam, or you may waste your time. And he says to himself, no, he's not speaking to anybody else. And this is what we mean about doing things in private. You know, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ in Surah Al-Mulk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, verily those individuals who are fear Allah in private, for them is a great reward with their Lord. So this is the example we are getting from our pious predecessors. So he's saying at this point that I want to go back. No, I don't want to die right now. I want to go back and I want to accumulate more good deeds. So his soul says to him, this is what he's saying to him. He's having a conversation with himself, his soul. And then he says to his soul, you are safe for now. Go back into the dunya and amal good deeds, because when you truly die, you will not be able to come back. So this is the example that we are getting. Number one is that this world is a pasturing field. Do not waste your time, because we need to guard our time. If we lost our time, then there's nothing replacing it. There's no equal to time which is spent, and there is nothing to replace the time which has been lost. We need to guard our time. I'll give you an example. We've all got mobile phones, right? We've all got smartphones. You got a smartphone yet? No? Not got a smartphone? MashaAllah. There's going to be alims, these are going to be the awliya, these are going to be leading, inshallah. So, I know that brother's got it, I've got a smartphone, I can see a couple of smartphones around. If we lost our smartphone, we would think, oh my God. You know, we've lost our phone, and we're turning to Allah. We've lost our phone. Not that, you know, we've committed a bad deed, or, you know, a true calamity has befallen us. You know, we've just passed the month of Muharram. You know, that's a calamity. You know, not losing your mobile phone. You lose your mobile phone, it's like, you know, here, I'll buy another one. But if we lose our mobile phone, just use this as an analogy, we will feel like our whole world has fallen apart. No, my phone, it had my pictures in it, it had my videos in it, I had all my applications in there, I had my messages in there, all my WhatsApp groups, you know, I've lost it, my whole world has fallen apart. But then when we lose time, we're not bothered. We waste our time, we're not bothered. We sit in front of the TV, right? We watch 90 minutes of football, and we observe the half-time analysis. We watch the pre-match analysis. I know you do, right? We watch the post-match analysis, right? We do all of these things, right? Time is wasted. Is it not easier to just watch Match of the Day? It's easier to watch Match of the Day. You get everything condensed. In that 90 minutes that you get, is condensed into 1 hour, mashallah. Right? And everything, you save all that time. So I'm not saying to you don't watch, you know, football, but you know, condense it. You know, spend that time in the deen and the dunya. There are always alternatives, right? And that was an example, you know, just you know, watch Match of the Day instead, right? And that will save you a lot of time. And we need to plan, because those individuals who work hard in the day, that they can rest easy at night. And we need to reflect on the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we need to do shukr on it. Because often we are of the opinion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not done anything for us. La hawla wa la quwwata. You know, we see non-Muslims. You know, we see non-Muslims in the flashy cars. We see, you know, like Drake, and we see Bugsy Malone and all these individuals. They're living it up. And you're like, wow, I wish I had a Bugatti. I wish I had a Lamborghini. Right? And we think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed them. And He hasn't blessed us, because look, I haven't even got a car yet, or I'm driving a Nissan Micro. No, my brothers, my sisters, it's not that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not blessed them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us because He's gave us Iman. And you know, these individuals are the ones who are being rejected because they do not have the blessing of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We have the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they have the shaitan. Who is the one that is blessed now? Us or them? This world, you know, it gives you an example, and we find in the traditions that an individual on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, he is somebody who's lived this life to the fullest, had all the luxuries of this world. On the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders for this individual to be placed into the hellfire. For just a split second. Literally a split second, not even a full second. Right? He is placed in the hellfire, and then he's taken back out. And then he is asked, have you known any happiness in your life, meaning in this dunya that you lived? You know, considering you had all these luxuries, what will his reply be? No. I know no good of this world. I only know of sadness and anger and wrath, because all he remembers is the hellfire. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala flips it for us and gives us the example of the individual who spent this life in absolute sadness, you know, not having any luxuries. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders for this individual to be placed into the heaven, into Jannah for just a split second. He is placed in Jannah for a split second, and he's taken back out. And then he is questioned about this world. Have you known any, you know, sadness, any sorrow? And he says, no. All I know is happiness. Because all that he knows now is that split second that he spent in Jannah. So ask yourselves, do you really want to focus on this world, or do you want to focus on the hereafter? And we have many things which will, you know, allow us to take ourselves away from these things. And one of the things that we do is the advice that is given by Imam Ghazali. Imam Ghazali, the proof of Islam. You know, the likes of Imam Ghazali, alayhi rahmah, may Allah be pleased with him, accept his efforts in the religion, and the likes of Sayyidina Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani, who in the Indian subcontinent, Asia subcontinent, is known as Gothic Bark, right? You know, these individuals are those individuals who excelled. These are the individuals who achieved the highest ranks. They crossed to the other side, and they saw what was on the other side. And what did they do? They came back for us. They didn't say, we're on the other side now, we don't need to worry about them. They can find their own way across. No, they came back. There were manuals for us to tell us exactly how to reach the other side also. And the greatest manual, in my opinion, in more advanced times for the scholars than that, it is the Ihya al-Ulum, the revival of the religious sciences. And then after that, another text for individuals who are on the path already is the Minhaj al-Abidin, the path of the rightful servants. And then you have the one for the beginners. And for me, this is the most important text, the beginning of guidance. Imam al-Ghazali in this text, he takes you from the beginning of your day all the way to the end of your day till you go to sleep. And he tells you exactly how you should be spending your day. From the moment you wake up, he orders you to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he gives you a dua. You go to the toilet, he tells you the dua before you enter the toilet. He tells you how to clean yourselves. Once you finish cleaning yourselves, what duas to make. He then guides you through your wudu. He then tells you to go to the masjid. And he tells you how to recite your salah. He tells you what duas to make in between. Your whole day he's with you. He's giving you an outline of how to spend your day. And then eventually, right away to the end of the day, he tells you to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or following the example of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, make your wudu, recite the last two verses of Surah Baqarah, recite Ayatul Kursi, recite Surah Ikhlas and the Mu'awwazatayn, Surah Falaq and Nas. Then he tells you to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by reciting the final dua. And then he says to you, go to sleep remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you do not know if you will be someone who wakes up in the morning. That these may be your last moments. And there are many examples. Many examples where we see individuals who there's nothing wrong with them. And what happens? They go to sleep, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the soul. It is not written when we will die, but it is written that we will die. And we need to be prepared at every single moment of time. And alhamdulillah, mashallah, tabarakallah, we've got so many youngsters here today. And it's a blessing to see youngsters in this day and age to be at the masjid. And it's a blessing, and it shows that there's guidance coming from their parents. And ultimately, it's the parents who will guide the youngsters. And it's the parents who need to know this stuff as well. Because when they are questioned, you know, mommy or daddy, because that's what it is nowadays, mommy and daddy, not about me, because that was back then when we were growing up. That's mommy and daddy or mama and papa, you know, why is it that we do this? And the answer is, be quiet. We do it because we do it, be quiet, don't ask questions. That's not the way forward. The way forward is, this is why we do it. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did it, this is why he did it, and this is why you need to do it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in the Quran, this is why you do it, and this is why we do it now. So educate, the elders need to educate themselves as well, and pass on the knowledge. It's not just come to the masjid, when there's a talk, there's somebody coming in, a speaker, let's go, pass a bit of time and go home and forget about it. You learn, and then you teach. And this is what I was reciting in the beginning. Nawaitu ta'allum wa ta'lim. That you made the intention to learn and to teach. And this is the Muslim. They convey things from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Imam Ghazali, he mentions that the only difference, and what the reason why he's planning out the whole day is for us is solely because of this. He says that the difference between a human and an animal is that animals wander aimlessly around. They have no purpose, right? And unfortunately some humans do this as well, even Muslims do this. They don't know what they're going to do for the day. They just wake up and they say, I'm going to go with the flow. Right? I'm going to go with the flow, I'm going to go where the wind takes me. Wherever the wind blows, you only live once. Yes, you all know you only live once, but because you only live once, this is more of a reason for you to plan your day to fit in as many good deeds as possible. And this is why Imam Ghazali says it is important for you to plan out your day. And ultimately, when he finishes in the section of telling you how to plan out your day and how to carry out your day, he says that certain individuals may find this, and I'm paraphrasing, that these things may be too much to do. It may be overwhelming. That at every moment you're telling us to do du'as, you're telling us to do this, you're telling us to do that. And then he says, it may seem like a lot. It may seem like a lot of things to do, but that is only if you think you are going to be here for a significant amount of time. If you view this to be the final moments of your time on earth, you will think, I will strive to do these things because I do not know if I will be here tomorrow. So my brothers who are in school, my brothers who are going to university, and my sisters, and those, even those who do work, always think every moment to be your last moment and try to do as much as you can. Enjoy good and forbid evil. Do good yourselves and call others to do good as well. This is the second point. And when you see someone doing something bad, you tell them to stop doing that bad thing. Advise them. Don't go up to them and say, La hawla wa la quwwata akhi, or ukhti, what are you doing? You know, this is haram, you know, for shame upon you. That's not what you do. You do the way the Prophet ﷺ does. And how he reacted when the individual was drunk and came into the masjid and started urinating in the corner. And the Sahaba got vexed. They were ready to take him out. And what does Rasul ﷺ say? No, let him finish. Once he finished urinating, only then the Rasul ﷺ gave him counsel. So number one, use your time wisely, call to and commit as many good deeds as you can. Number two, plan out your days. Plan out your days so you know exactly what you are doing, so you can fit those good things in that need to be done. And number three, it is that you call people to good and you tell the people who are doing bad things, you advise them against it. But it's not, do as I say and not as I do. So meaning, you're not praying salah yourself, but you say to somebody else, you go pray salah. And this happens in our families. Our elders, sometimes, they're sitting there watching TV themselves, Dhuhr, Maghrib comes in, Putar ja namaz par. Right? And the child turns around and says, wait a minute, you're not praying yourself, how can you tell me to pray? Lead by example. And it's the best thing that you see is when elders are bringing their youngsters into the masjid at a young age. It is being instilled in their minds that, my father is doing this, I'm going to do this. And they carry on doing it. And I'll leave you with one last analogy. I'm known for my analogies, alhamdulillah. So I think it makes it easier to understand things. Imam Wafaquddin ibn Qudama, the great Imam of the Hanbali school, he was part of the army of Salahuddin ibn Ayyubi. Right? Very great character. He was one of those individuals who was the generals amongst them. And he wrote a book, and it's called A Word of Advice. And I advise every single one of you here to invest in this book. It's called A Word of Advice. And I'll consult with some of the brothers here, inshallah, because I taught it in Lenten Masjid. And inshallah, I think you should get it taught here as well. There's a beautiful translation that's been done as well. And every Muslim should have this. So number one, have the Bidayat al-Hidayah. Number two, have a word of advice. And if you follow these two, inshallah, you will be protected and you will be able to plan your days out effectively. So in there, he gives us the example. He gives us the example of a group of people. The group of people, they are on a ship. And then they get shipwrecked. The ship crashes on some cliffs and they end up on a deserted island. What they think to be deserted, they come onto there and they hear a voice. A voice says, you are here on this island for 1 day and 1 night. There are gems and there are rubies and diamonds on this island. Collect as many as you can And then you will be made to be brought to account for these at the end. So they say, okay. So they've agreed to it. Immediately they split into two groups. You have the first group. Now this first group, they split into two as well. The first group from the first party, we'll call it 1A. So group A from group 1. So group 1A, they start to get to work immediately. They start to collect as much as they can. They don't sleep, they eat very little, and they drink very little. They spend their entire time collecting these gems and these diamonds. And they think, yes, we need to collect as many as we can, our time here is limited. Group 1B, so the second group from this larger group, they do exactly the same, but they decide to sleep a little as well. So they have a bit of sleep and they eat a little bit more. Right? But ultimately, they collect as much as they can as well. Now, the second group who ran away, they completely forgot about their diamonds and the gems. They thought, forget about it. You know, they saw that there's other things here. They saw there's clay, there's shells, they saw there's so many different things. So they divide into three groups. Group A from them, they start building buildings and cottages, etc. Group B, they start building, creating antique china plates and all these kind of things, you know, what do you call it, art. They start creating all these beautiful things. Group 3 from them, they think, forget it, we're just going to chill out. They just spend their time chit-chatting, you know, dancing and singing, etc. Now one of these groups, that from the second group, one of them, they explore the island and they come to a realization it's not a deserted island. In fact, there's a massive castle there, and which means there's going to be a king in there. So what they say is, and originally they are told that if you come across the king's castle or anything, you come across any buildings, do not approach it. So what do these individuals do? They see the castle walls and they breach it. They go inside and they say, we are here forever and we will live forever. And they begin to start dancing with the children of the king. And they break into the king's treasury and they take all of his treasure. And they think they are living it up. And then what happens is the horn is blown to signify that the one day and one night is over. And then they are told to bring forth their diamonds and their gems. The first group, they bring their diamonds and their gems. And the king says to them, he says, you are my elite. You have done what I told you to do. And he raises their ranks. And he makes them kings. And he says, you will be closest to me. And then he turns to, and he says to them, make any wish that you want. Whether you ask it me or not, I will grant it you. Because he knows what's in our hearts, so whether we ask or not, he will grant it to us. So then the second group now, the ones who were messing about, he says to them, bring what you collected. Some of them bring very, very little. And some of them, now bear in mind that the two groups in the first group, even the ones who slept slightly longer and ate a little bit more, the king made no distinction between them. He made no distinction. He said to them that you will be treated as kings and you will have my neighborhood. So he lets them be. Now these individuals, he says to them, you have nothing, what have you been spending your time in? They say we've been building buildings, we've been doing all this architecture, we've been making these artifacts, and we've been singing and dancing, etc. And you know, we looted your treasury as well. And he says, okay. He goes, you will perish. You will be destroyed. And he says to them, and what he does is he makes an example out of them. He makes them parade through the streets. And these individuals now, they're waiting for the first group to intercede for them. Because now they've seen that this first group has attained proximity, they have become close to the king. And they say to the king that, you know, maybe this individual now, these individuals, they will intercede for us. But they may say to the king, you know, let them go, please. This is what they're hoping for. But no, they're paraded around the streets. And the king says to them, were you not warned by these individuals? Were you not told that you need to collect these things, and you need to not waste your time, that you were only here for a limited amount of time. And they say, yes, we were. Then he says, why did you not do this? And they have no answer. Then he says to them, you will perish. And the Imam ibn Qudama, he gives this analogy, and he says, this is the example of us living in this world, in this dunya. That we have been shipwrecked on this world, on this island. This whole world is an island. And the king is who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if we do good deeds, and we are not 24/7 in our good deeds, like, you know, always in salah, etc., fasting, but we do what is required of us, and we strive to do even more, and we become from the first 1A, who sleep absolute bare minimum, who eat bare minimum. We become of those people, then on the day of Qiyamah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there will be those individuals who will be raised on thrones, and their faces will be bright and shining, and they will be made to wear crowns. We will be, inshallah, tabarakallah, inshallah ta'ala, we will be amongst those individuals. However, if we waste our time in gossip, in entertainment, in building houses for ourselves, you know, driving our taxis, and you know, because we've come back late, you know, I've come at 3 o'clock now home, but Fajr starts at 4, I'm tired, I'm going to go to sleep, I'll miss Fajr, but when I wake up, I'll pray my Fajr. Nah, this isn't the way it is. You stay up. This is what the Muhsin does. He goes to sleep after he prays his Fajr. But then how do we then differentiate between 1A and 1B? 1B will stay up for Fajr, 1A will stay all the way till sunrise and pray, and after sunrise and pray Ishraq and then go to sleep. This is how you differentiate between the two. Now the third group, from now group 2C, the ones who broke into the king's castle and that, what do we speak about these individuals? Who are these? These are those individuals who left the boundaries of Islam, the boundaries that were set. And for these individuals, you know, these are the ones that will perish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about them and says they will be in the hellfire forever in it. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَبَدًا. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about them. So we need to be amongst those people from the first. So accumulate your time here, accumulate good deeds, and your gems and your diamonds here are your fasting, is your salah, performing your hajj, etc. and the like. Do not waste your time. And this is the ultimate message of today. So number one, you will spend your time wisely, do not waste your time, and mind as many good deeds as you can. Number two, plan out your day. Number three, enjoy good, invite people to do good, and do not invite people and call those people who are doing bad things, call them away. Call them away from it. And the final example is, and just if you want to become, to see where you are at, and if you want to see where you are at, right, is, like, I'm going to mention it again because it just happened last night, so it's fresh in everybody's mind. The amount of people that stayed up and watched the fight last night, right, saying, we're going to support Khabib because he's a Muslim. This fight is for Islam. This is what everybody was saying. This is about Islam versus non-Muslims. Then Fajr time came. Where was Islam then? The brothers were like, no, we're tired, we're going to sleep. Or they were too busy, sat in shisha bars. And some of the ulama, I want to mention this right now because the youngsters here, and people need to know, that shisha bars, brothers, the ulama have said, it is haram. Even if there is a difference of opinion about smoking, which there is a difference of opinion, the environment of shisha cafes is haram. Why? Loud music, free mixing, there's no parda, there's no segregation. This is why that environment is haram. So an individual who does not smoke shisha and goes there and says, I'm just going to go and chill, I'm just going to go with my friends, right? You are still entering a haram environment. And we know that if you mingle with those people who do haram, and you do not, speak against the haram, and you just subtly stay there, that means you're approving of it. And you will be those individuals who are accepted amongst it as well. So stay away from it, because it's at this age, where it's university and that, where brothers and sisters go to these shisha cafes. Stay away. I can't stress that enough, because it will take you away from time which will be spent amounting good deeds. Such as when salah time comes, you're too busy sat there smoking your shisha pipe, talking to your friends, and then salah goes. And this is what must have happened last night. And I know it happened because my friends told me. And then I said to them, you shouldn't have been there either. They were like, yeah, but I said, it's not but it's about, which group do you want to be from. These individuals will not be from the first group, they will be from the second group. So aim your life to be from the first group, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq to become those individuals who attain a taqwa, and those individuals who can practice ihsan, become Muslim in this world and in privacy and in front of people as well. We say, أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. Does anybody have any questions about what we covered today? Any questions? No? Say, وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين وصلى الله وسلم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.